You're listening to the Minutes on Growth podcast, the show that brings you mindfully curated insights into relationships, spirituality, personal development, and everything in between, with your host, Tannaz Hosseinpour. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Minutes on Growth. Today, I have a very special guest, Kiara, holistic and functional health practitioner all the way from North Virginia. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tannaz. I'm so excited to be here. This is actually my first podcast episode, so I'm excited.
Amazing. I mean, I've been following you for a while now on Instagram, and I just love what you have to share. You're always sharing so much wisdom and insight that I feel is so important now, maybe more than ever, with all the rise of, all these issues that we're seeing more and more in society, like low thyroid function, infertility, just irregular cycles, PCOS, all of this. I mean, I've never heard of these, let's say a decade ago, but now it's on the rise, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think in our environment, in our food, we're being exposed to these certain chemicals and toxins that we've never been exposed to. And the lifestyles that we lead now in this modern society are just so different in comparison to what once used to be, right? We're leading these such busy lives. We're experiencing so much more stress now than ever, and we're not managing it on top of that. So I think a combination of all of those things can definitely lead to a lot of dis-ease in the body.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up becoming a, functional health practitioner? Why did you end up becoming it? I mean, I know your story because I follow you religiously on Instagram, but for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I never thought I would be here today. This is not something that I planned on becoming. I actually majored in mass communications in college. I thought I was going to be, I actually used to think when I was a little girl, I was going to be a doctor one day, but didn't go the doctor route. I went more of a holistic approach because I went through my own health struggles. So that looked like for me, I mean, from a little girl, I was always this anxious person. And then what was it? Like in 2016, so I was just getting out of college, all of these health issues just started to get really, really bad. Things that I had ignored in college, in high school, things such as heartburn, indigestion, irregular bowel movements, constant burping, food intolerances. And then they just got to the point where I just could not ignore them anymore. I was in the ER several times. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I looked A-OK on all the x-rays, all the different types of tests that they ran on me. I saw different doctors outside of the emergency room, like my PCP and GI doctors. And they couldn't tell me anything other than I had IBS, which of course is just a blanket statement for a bunch of symptoms that one experiences. And they just really can't tell you anything more than that. And they tell you to follow like a FODMAP diet for the rest of your life. And if you know what a FODMAP diet is, it is just so restrictive. You can't enjoy certain foods that everyone else is enjoying, little things such as onions and garlic, which of course are so flavorful. But I was given medication, even including antidepressants, because what that does is suppress like these spasms that you experience in your gut. So the whole point is to just suppress any symptoms. And of course, there are side effects to these medications and stuff. So it just took me down this long rabbit hole, and I was not satisfied with it. So that led me to do my own research, of course, and take my health into my own hands. And that led me to this world of holistic healing. And I would not stop. And I was my own rabbit, or I was just testing so many different things on myself and experimenting. And then of course my health got worse because I was doing all that by myself. And then I decided to seek the help of a functional medicine practitioner. And, that was good. It was really helpful because they definitely opened up the door for me. And that led me to just decide this is something I want to do because of my own health struggles. I definitely want to help other women because I talk to other women and they experience bloating too. And they think it's normal, but it's actually not. It's common, but these symptoms are not normal. So then I became a nutritional therapy practitioner and have recently incorporated lab testing into my practice as well, because I feel like having those functional lab tests can be really helpful when it comes to looking at the body as a whole. So that's what got me here today.
Amazing. And do you feel like you're at a point in your life where you've kind of healed your gut? And what is the gut? Let's just start with there. Like, what is the gut? It's such a foreign word for, it was a foreign word for me. When my ND said, it's all about gut health, I was like, what is that? I've never heard about that before. So can you talk a little bit about that and then say if you've, healed your own gut or if it's always a work in progress? Like, how does it work?
Yeah. So we put such an emphasis on gut health because 80% of the immune system lies in our gut. So when people get sick often and tend to just take certain medications for it and not really asking the question, why am I so prone to sickness? It's because we're not looking at our gut. So gut health has so much to do with our mental health, emotional health. When we look at anxiety, we can definitely look at the gut for that. And if your gut is functioning poorly, that can also impact your thyroid. So we have to make sure that the microbiome in our gut flora is well balanced, because if it's not, there's certain bacteria that can trigger things such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, things such as pathogens that include parasites and worms and yeast and fungus. These things do contribute to mood disorders, anxiety, different hormonal disorders. I know a lot of people are so quick to jump the gun on healing their hormones, but they never really take a step back and look at their gut and think about what could be going on in there. What imbalances do we have in there so that we can then heal our hormones? Our hormones are kind of like the last piece of the puzzle to heal. So as far as if I've healed my gut, I mean, who's really to know unless I ran like a gut test. However, I will say in comparison to what I felt years ago, I have made tremendous strides. I don't experience any digestive dysfunction anymore whatsoever. I can eat food and enjoy it without fear of being bloated or gassy or having to leave a restaurant or not enjoying food with my family because I'm afraid of what could happen. And these bouts of, the gas and bloating that would last days and weeks for me, that doesn't happen anymore. I don't feel puffy all around. I don't have the symptoms that I once used to ever. I think the only thing that I'm kind of working myself through now is an anxiety piece, because there's so much that goes on to like running your own business and stuff, and just different things that I'm just working myself through life, and seeking help with like different coaches and counselors and stuff like that too can be really helpful. And just my own practices that I implement on the daily, such as breath work, stretching, yoga and walks and meditation. All of those things have been super helpful. But as far as like my gut health, I feel like it is so, so much better. And I'm so grateful that I took this path, even though it may have taken some time, because of course we expect these symptoms to start to disappear as soon as we take a supplement or start changing the way we eat. But in reality, I mean, healing is not linear. It does have its ups and downs, but eventually you will get there, and it's totally possible.
I love that you mentioned, the importance of the whole mind, body, soul thing, right? So it's the mind, the gut is your body, but now you're incorporating so many different tools for the mind and the soul as well, which is wonderful. And I'm so happy to hear that you've healed your gut. That's great. So pretty much gut health is the root, right? So it starts from there, and then everything else is just like the branch from the tree, I'm assuming. Okay, so my question is, how do we support or create a healthy gut? Like how does that work? What can we incorporate in our day-to-day life to make that possible? Because I mean, looking around the people in my own life, this whole issue of bloating and gas, it's there. It's in almost everyone's life, to the point that I feel like it's turned into something normal, right? You eat something and then you immediately get bloated. They say, don't eat a salad, you'll get bloated. Don't eat this, don't eat beans. pretty much at the end of the day, you're like, okay, so what can I have? Just water. Like, and then you drink too much water and you get bloated. Like, what is happening? What is wrong with our gut, and how did we get here, and how can we move forward? I know there's no one answer fits all, but is there anything that we can do on a day-to-day basis to support a healthy gut?
Yes, absolutely. And you're so right. There's so much misinformation out there, and what we're doing is trying to throw a one size fits all approach to everyone. And that's not possible, right? We have different genetic backgrounds. We have different lifestyles that we lead. There's no way that one diet, one way of living is right for everyone. But there are some foundations that I am in agreement with, in alignment with, such as the simple things, the very basics that we tend to skip over because, again, of the modern lifestyles that we lead. So, what that's going to look like are just three things to focus on digestion, because there is a north to south process with how the body is going to heal. So, it starts in the brain. We need to signal the brain to release certain enzymes in order to digest our food. How can we do that? We can begin slowing down at our meals. We don't want to be in a rush in the car, or scarfing down our meal before our meeting. We want to make sure we have allotted a certain amount of time for ourselves to enjoy our meal, and smelling our food. By smelling our food, I don't know if you do this, but sometimes you'll just start like salivating because you're so hungry. And that saliva is full of enzymes ready to help you break down your food. So by doing that, you're signaling the brain to release those enzymes. And you have to also think about the chemical and mechanical breakdown of the food, which is your mouth. So we need to be chewing slowly. Again, with the rushing, make sure that you're chewing your food maybe like 30 times. You don't have to count, but just so you can feel it in your mouth and know that your stomach doesn't have teeth, so it can't do the work for you. And then, let's see, lastly, you want to make sure that your mind is in a parasympathetic state. So I like to call the parasympathetic state, and I'm sure you know this too, rest and digest. Sympathetic is fight or flight. So even though our bodies might be here with a plate of food, our minds might be running and racing, and that's still not in a parasympathetic state, right? So by bringing yourself down to earth and grounding yourself and just being super mindful of what's in front of you and speaking your gratitude towards this food and just truly enjoying it. You don't want to be eating something that you just actually don't enjoy, but within reason, right? We want to be eating good quality food that is probably most likely free of toxins and chemicals. We want to be enjoying all macronutrients. We love our healthy fats. We love good quality animal protein because it is bioavailable in a lot of nutrients that our body can easily unlock. And then root vegetables, salad greens. These are all really good foods to have a variety of all the time, as well as variety, mixing it up throughout the week, not eating the same thing every single day, because what that can also create is food sensitivities over time if we're not exposing ourselves to different sort of vegetables and types of meats and types of fats and so forth. But I really think starting with the foundations of just being mindful of what you're eating, how you're eating it, and who you're eating with is, I think, going to make a huge difference, because it did for me. I wasn't doing that. I was scarfing down my food, and then I started implementing the slow chewing, and it's just a world's difference.
Wow. I had no idea with the saliva creating enzyme. Like, I didn't know about that. I mean, I know that they always say chew your food and be mindful, but I love hearing the science behind it. And I think once you know the science behind it, it's just so much more easier to incorporate into your life. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Any other tips on, are there any specific superfoods? We hear this so much now, right? Superfoods are everywhere. Like, buy this and buy that. And sometimes, some people say that it's expensive to be healthy. Like, some of these superfoods are so expensive, especially in countries that, are far away from the country of origin. So the distance really increases the export costs. So what are some foods that we can incorporate into our life that are easily accessible? Like onions, garlics. What are your favorites?
Yeah, that is such a hard question. There is a lot of misinformation out there regarding superfoods. I think what has been the craze lately is things such as like kale or chia seeds. In reality, these foods don't offer as much as something like liver would. And I know liver is not the yummiest thing, and we say that because you need like maybe just a couple ounces of liver, whereas you need like cups and cups of kale to really unlock the similar nutrients. So as far as bioavailability goes in a superfood, I'd say liver is nature's superfood. However, I understand a lot of people can't stomach that. For the people who can, I know a liver pate is great. Sauteing it with onions is great. But you can also take liver capsules. It's like dehydrated liver, encapsulated. There's no flavor to it whatsoever, but you're still getting the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, which are super essential for hormone health and overall gut health. Then you can also incorporate some egg yolks in particular. They're rich in cholesterol, and our cells need cholesterol. So I know cholesterol has been given this bad name and like avoid eggs and eat your egg whites instead. But there are so many fat soluble vitamins in these egg yolks that we're missing out on. So that's definitely a superfood. And with all of these animal products, like, we just want to be sure that we're getting as close to the source as possible, because they do venture out far away, we're not getting the same nutrients that we would as close to the source as possible, if that makes sense. But liver, eggs, I know this is controversial too, but even raw dairy, goat milk is amazing. It's easier to digest as well. Yeah, I'd say those are like my top three: dairy, eggs, and liver. It's kind of like totally goes against what you've been hearing.
Exactly. I was just going to say it goes against everything you've ever heard, especially with the egg yolk. I mean, growing up, I always heard, don't eat the yellow part. It'll take your cholesterol like up and it's not good for you. Or dairy, like, everyone's lactose intolerant. But to be fair, like, and it's so weird when I have milk from the supermarket, my body reacts so much more differently than when I'm like, for example, in a village in the middle of Nepal and I have milk and I'm perfectly fine when it's less processed, I guess, right? Crazy. But the liver thing is so interesting because in my culture, Persian culture, whenever we're on our cycle, the first thing we have is grilled liver. Like, you get the liver, you grill it, and then you put some lemon and salt on top of it and you just eat it. And some people have it raw as well. But it's like a staple. Like, every Persian girl knows this. If she goes to her parents and says, I'm on my cycle, let me go get you some liver. So that's amazing. That's crazy. And I've heard a lot about it actually helping with people who are healing from MS as well. I mean, there's so much information out there, which is crazy. Wow. Wow. I love that. Now I have a bigger excuse to have liver. So that's great. Anything else? Any other tips in terms of like what we're drinking? I know our social lives, a lot of people drink alcohol. Like, what is your take on that? And what is your take on caffeine, like coffee and all of that?
Mm-hmm. So I actually used to hate on coffee so much because I think I had bad experiences with it in college and it just left me super jittery. I always made the correlation between anxiety and coffee, and you shouldn't have it if you do have anxiety. However, goes into a whole different topic, but coffee also inhibits the absorption of iron. It's also really rich in vitamins B1 and B3, magnesium. So it does have a lot of properties to it, like antioxidants, that are actually really, really good for you. However, we do have to pay attention to how we're consuming it, right? We shouldn't consume it on an empty stomach. It shouldn't be black on an empty stomach. Ideally, we would consume it after breakfast with certain macronutrients in there. So we have the coffee. We want to be sure to add some sugar in there because that slows down the caffeine absorption. We want to be sure to have some protein in there. So amino acids from something like collagen peptides, high quality collagen peptides would be really beneficial. And adding in a source of fat such as ghee or butter or coconut milk or raw dairy. All having a combination of everything is really going to slow down the caffeine absorption. It's not going to leave you jittery. It's like a full meal. you know? So that's my take on caffeine. I think as long as you enjoy it, you're not drinking it to gain energy. You're drinking it more so because you enjoy it and because of the benefits. And of course, within moderation, I'd say just like a cup a day. I wouldn't go anything past that. And just seeing how you feel. Of course, everyone's going to be so different, but I find that having all of those ratios in there is going to be really helpful. As far as alcohol, this can impair liver detoxification over time and accumulation of it. I think if you were to consume alcohol, again, with the moderation, personally, I consume alcoholic beverages maybe once a month, probably maybe bi-monthly. I don't know. If I do, I go for a deep red wine that's full of antioxidants or a tequila because it's safe, it's gluten-free, enjoying that on the rocks with not a lot of other like sugars and stuff because that tends to like bring on the hangover the next day, right? So I just do a lot of lime and just enjoy it to just enjoy it, not to get too off the wall or anything. But that's kind of my take on it. As long as you're doing everything within moderation and the right quality and the right amount, I think you're solid.
Great. And the coffee you mentioned, is that like what the bulletproof coffee is that everyone talks about? Like, I see this a lot. Like, they put in the butter, then they put this. It doesn't even look like coffee anymore. Does it taste like coffee at that point? I've never had coffee with butter. How does it taste?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It tastes so good. Oh my gosh. Like if you haven't tried it, definitely try it. I even like someone just told me this past week that they used to put a slice of or just a little bit of cheese to sub for the butter. And I'm like, what?
What?
I've never heard of that. Yeah, I'm actually really curious, but I guess it's kind of the same, but just a little bit different. And I think the bulletproof, I don't know if they would add sugar. I think that's the only difference. And the sugar can be a white sugar, it can be a maple syrup, or it can be honey. Honey is like really beneficial too. It's kind of where the state of your body and where it's at right now, what you can tolerate versus what you can't, and slowly easing to adding in sugar, because I know sugar has been demonized as well. So there's like a process to that and just making sure that you're slowly building up to that. But it's really good.
Wow. So it really is like there is no one size fits all. And I guess that's where your job, like your work comes in, right? Where you work with clients to figure out what the process is for them, what the healing journey would look like. And you do one-on-one, right? And you're launching a program. Do you want to talk about that? Because I want to join. It sounds so cool and much needed.
Yeah, thank you, Tannaz. Yeah, so I work with clients one-on-one currently. We fill out a bunch of paperwork. It's probably the most in-depth questionnaire that you've ever completed in your life, because I do want to go back to how you were born. I want to look at how long you were breastfed for, because we have to take it all into consideration. And that's why everyone is so different, because not everyone was born the exact same way. And so we look at 300 questions worth of symptoms. We get a really good picture of what could be going on in your body, where dysfunction lies. And then we start the process of addressing food, rest, exercise, stress, and supplementation. Because I've added lab testing into my practice recently, some clients have been really interested in getting these receipts and confirmation of what is exactly going on inside their body. However, I find that by just addressing nutritional therapy alone, I feel like so many people would benefit so much from that alone without having to do these kind of expensive out-of-pocket lab testing. So that's why I'm launching this course. And this course is going to be a group of women who would be a part of a private Facebook group. They would get module content for a total of 3 months. And we would also do these weekly calls where we would get to know each other a little bit more and kind of help each other through what one could be possibly going through and struggling with at the current moment. So this is for the woman who is struggling with digestion, struggling with hormonal health, has food sensitivities to everything, is bloated, gassy, constipated, experiencing diarrhea, or just wants to achieve like overall like optimal health and wellness, and is just looking for not the next diet, but making it a lifestyle, getting more information, resources, and tips on how to transition into this life. because again, yeah, it's not a diet. It's not a keto. It's not a Whole30. It's not here to lose weight. That's not my goal. It's in order to empower these women and give them the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to continue on this path after we're done working with each other. So yeah, that starts mid or early to mid August. So I'm really excited about it. This is for the woman who is looking for a community of like-minded women to share their story with, because I know this path alone can be, yeah, it can be really lonely when no one really knows exactly what you're going through, but like these women do. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. Can you just give us some specific like hormonal issues that you would be covering so that we have a better understanding of, like, for example, if I'm suffering from PCOS, would this course be a benefit to me? Or if I'm suffering from, let's say, an autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's, like, or thyroid issues?
Yeah, exactly. Everything you just said. So, amenorrhea, if you're missing your period, we're going to work on getting that back. PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, absolutely. That's strongly correlated to your thyroid. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, of course, is related to your thyroid. So, any woman who's struggling with thyroid health, which is like 95% of women in today's world, they tend to struggle with like slow metabolism or just having this inability to lose weight. So that if someone is just having these wonky cycles, they're irregular, abnormal, they're getting hormonal acne, any fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, infertility, absolutely. I'm actually working with a couple women right now in order to get that under control as well, because infertility, I think, obviously you hear that from your doctor and it's really like scary to hear, and you feel like you're doomed and never can have a baby for the rest of your life. But I don't think that's a death sentence at all. I think that's just a hormonal imbalance, and you can definitely fix that.
Wow, that brings so much hope into so many people's lives, just hearing that. And, when you're diagnosed and when you're sitting in a doctor's office, I remember last year when the doctor was like, "You're suffering from Hashimoto's," I felt like, wow, my body was failing me. Like, it felt so hard to hear that. But then when I speak to people like you and you're like, "Don't worry, it's just, gut health and it's fixable. Like, it's not the end of the world. It just takes some effort," and it just gives you hope. And I think that's exactly what we need. And I hope more MDs incorporate functional medicine into their practice, because it will make going to the doctor so much more pleasant and long-term change and long-term healing. So great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that wisdom and insight. And of course, I'm going to be sharing your Instagram account handle with everyone so that they can check out all the amazing content you put out there on gut health, on hormones, on all of that, and information on your program as well, which I'm so excited about. So thank you so, so much for joining me today. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Tannaz. I really appreciate you. I've enjoyed our conversation so much, and I hope everyone benefited from this somehow. But yeah, you guys can reach out to me on Kiara Marie on Instagram, and I know you'll link that. But it was such a good conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Speak soon. Thank you for joining us this week on Minutes on Growth. If you enjoyed today's episode, then make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now.